Hello, welcome back. Terence South talking about line of duty. I left you in a very somber place last time. We were talking about leadership. We've got this commanding officer. He's got to move the battle forward, and he's still got to take that personal time to write letters to family, mothers, and I assure you, it's not easy. It is not an easy thing to do. And leadership comes through experience, it comes through things going wrong. People talk about leaders nowadays, and they're not, they're just the head of the department. Because you got, leadership is sort of what you learn on the shop floor. And then you're going to try and take a guy who's a leader into being a manager. And that's not an easy transition, but some people do make it. And so that's the sort of thing that the army takes you through, the rank structure. You're going from learning about leadership after being in the lower ranks, learn about leadership and come into management. And that's what the rank system in the army does for you. And in doing that, you always remain flexible. You always remain with the ability to change shape and size. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So, here we are with this guy now who's like a great leader. And one day we're out there on the battlefield and we'll make contact with these Argentinians, and we have a few Argentinian prisoners. And there was an officer there who, to be quite honest, I had very little respect for because I'd had nothing to do with him. Simply, I had nothing to do with this guy. But he spoke in a really, shall we say, posh English accent. And it was for that reason, me being a lad from a farm, council estate, rough, tough life as a kid, I was like, nah, I just didn't gel with it. I just didn't get on with it. And I didn't understand it. And so we've got this captain, who I don't necessarily like. Got to work with a guy. The Argentinian prisoners come in, and this guy just went straight into Spanish, speaking to the Argentinians, bang, 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 and he's talking to these prisoners. And I'm like, wow. I was 21 years of age. I was in a battlefield 8,000 miles away from home, and I decided what I want to do in life. I didn't want to be a soldier. I'd been waiting for my career change, and that was it. I wanted to be an interpreter. And that's ridiculous. I'd had all these chances in life, and there's me with the wings on one arm, I had a dagger on the other arm. I was at the top of my career as far as a soldier's concerned, and 8,000 miles away from home, it's like, I want to be an interpreter. Why didn't I know that when I was a kid? It's strange, it's just something in life. The timing was right. Was it because of what I'd seen, what I'd done, understanding the risks of the job I was in? What was it? It was just, at the end of the day, the timing was right. And after the military career, I went into a career interpreting. However, we're still there at war, and we've got to sort it out. Listening to the radio, listening for my friends to make sure my friends is okay. And it's natural to do that. So, here's Dan Newbold. Dan, what's he doing? Looks at the map. He's on the road to Stanley, right? He's outside Stanley Racecourse. Wow. Dan. We have a quick chat. He confirms where he is. And I goes in to see my boss. Rod, come here. You don't go into meetings of that size and that shape and get your commanding officer to come to you. So he was like, this must be serious. And he's saying, no. And I'm saying, yes, you come here. Across the camera says, right, listen to that. Dan Newbold, he's outside Stanley. Is he? No, there you are. Dan, where are you? Boom. Royal Engineers commanding officer then went in and spoke to Julian Thompson and says, Tupa are on the road into Stanley. No, yes they are. Have a talk to him. So the next thing I know, I'm being briefed. I'm with the bodyguard for the brigadier, and a helicopter comes forward, takes us as far to Stanley as we can. puts us down next to a minefield. I take them across the minefield, we're onto a path, and then we're away and we're down at Stanley. The thing was, what I'd heard in the radio centre was that it had been negotiated that British troops would not pass the gates of Stanley Racecourse, Port Stanley being the capital city for the Falklands. They wouldn't pass that, and they were already past it. And they were going to do that to save life. No good going into the streets fighting, the war was over. Their backs was to the sea. There was only a mile behind that, it was pointless. So, knowing that was the reason I spoke to Dan. I shouldn't really be talking to him, but I did. Spoke to him, whole thing went back, and it saved life. And at the end of the day, that's what a lot of soldiers do. They try and preserve life. They don't just kill. So time goes on, and we go to Stanley, and there's about 5 of us in the Secretariat building. Myself, some SAS guys, Rod, Julian Thompson, they're all there. My job was to sort out some booby traps which had been left, which were trivial little things with hand grenades and pins. We just put the pins back in, sorted them out. We could use all the rooms. But there was 2 Argentinian guys downstairs. Went down, had a chat, we couldn't speak English, but it was sign language. We had a cup of tea together. They wanted to see me knife, they wanted to see this, that and the other. They couldn't believe how well the equipment had been maintained, because their equipment was in poor order. So anyway, we're upstairs, and then Rod MacDonald comes across and says to me, "South, I want you to go and get the maps that the Recce Troop have, because they have the very best maps that we have on the island." You've got to remember that the Falkland Islands wasn't a inhabited island as such, it was just the periphery that was inhabited. And the central area, and a lot of it, was just white space on a map. And only when the Falklands conflict started did they actually start and make maps covering the whole of the island. And because Recce Troop were the ones responsible primarily for the front line and the minefield clearing and access and egress across minefields, they were the people that had the best maps so they could document them. What we needed to do was get our best maps alongside the Argentinian maps, find out where the minefields were, so that we could bring people down off the mountains and into the dry, into the safe, with minimum risk to limb, because that's what you do, lose arms and legs. So anyway, it was like, go do it. I was just told to do it. And I was just like, go do it. So, picks up my weapon, puts it on, gets my rifle, downstairs, opens the door, down the stairs, and I sits next to the building for 5 minutes with my weapon. Let my eyes adjust, watching what was going on. And to my left, you had the street with a few what we call ferrets, armoured cars in. You had a lot of drunken sort of Argentinian soldiers. You had the odd shot going into the air, and it didn't look very organised or disciplined. And so my job was to get from here, about 1.5 miles down the road, into where Recce Troop were, get their maps and get back. And I was going to do it by myself. Right. As I set off, I then realised the problem I had. Because these people here, who were the Argentinians, were actually looking out to sea. So they could see me walking across the cliff tops. And that was dangerous, because the peace agreement hadn't been signed. A lot of them had drink, and they still had their guns. What am I going to do? I'm out there, I'm exposed, and I've got 50, 60 Argentinians to my left, no more than 200 metres away. I'm outgunned, I'm outrun. What am I going to do? I'd been in Northern Ireland before we went to the Falklands. So I went down onto one leg, and they all looked. Then I'm waving my arms about. You go there, you go there, you go there. And they're all watching. And there's only me just flinging my arms about. You go there, you, and they're all going, where's all these men? where's all these men? But they did realise it was only me. I moved forward another 50 metres, got back down, and I'm using my arms to these invisible men, and these Argentinians were looking around, and they couldn't believe what was going on. They thought there was other men with me, so they didn't come for me. And I did that and did that and did that until I was out of their way, and I was off like a shot. Into Recce Troop, got the maps, did what I needed to do, and then half an hour later so, made my way back. And I made my way back using the same, what they term, pepper pot. And it's, in the British military, it's known as a lost man drill. Because if you're lost and you're separated from people, so people don't attack you or take you on, you make yourself look bigger than you are. And you use this lost man drill, communicating as you do, not in normal infantry battalions, using your arms, moving people A to B. So they think there's people around you. And that normally does enough to get you away, out of harm's way. So we're back, and the peace agreement that night, next morning, was signed. And there's me, again, 8,000 miles away, and you're listening to Margaret Thatcher on the telephone in the next room. Just unbelievable to be part of something that's so big going on in life, in the world. So next day, peace is signed, and the Argentinians are moving off onto the airfield. The British troops are coming down, Argentinians go to the airfield, British troops are in the town, the two are naturally separated. And so we moved into a house, myself, Roderick MacDonald, the SQMS, a few guys, all nice in one house. And it was really great to see people and be able to talk and let steam off and just talk about things other than war. So anyway, it was funny because it was like a relief. You were still there. Time goes on, I've got a job for you. I need you to go to the airfield. What? Well, we've been told, and the images tell us that we have, that some of the aircraft that's on the airfield are still armed. And we're putting prisoners on the airfield that could potentially fly those planes. So we just need to sabotage those aircraft to make sure that they can't fly. Come south, get a team of men and go. What? There's about 2,000 prisoners on that airfield, and you want me to go with 3 men, 4 men? Yes, off you go. Oh my God. So, we commandeered a vehicle, got some lads together, armed to the teeth, and off we went. Down onto Stanley Airfield, there was hundreds and hundreds of Argentinian prisoners around us. None of them really wanted to fight. They'd had enough. They were cold, they were wet, they were demoralised, and it was very much a conscript army and lads who just didn't want to be there. They weren't professional soldiers, they were very much conscript soldiers. So in that sense it was uneven match. However, the Argentinians did have some really good professional soldiers in 604 Squadron. However, we get on the airfield and then they're starting to surround us. It's like getting really uncomfortable because there's only 4 of us. So we have these 40-foot containers and it was like, we've got to stop this aircraft. What we're going to do? Right, let's see what's in the containers. So we had these huge bowl croppers. We snapped open these locks. Wow, it's all dry clothing. Why are these men on the mountains when we've got containers of dry clothing here? So no sooner we had those doors open, those Argentinian guys were in, changing their clothes, putting dry clothes on, and they were thrilled with me. They're like, next, get over the next one. What? He went from being my enemy or somebody I was frightened of to being my mate. Open the next container, and I opened the next one. The next one had food in. It had red wine and beef in tins. Open up, and they now had food. I opened the next one and the next one, and none of them were of any use to me. Anyway, we had one with what they call janitorial supplies, which is anything you need to clean. I had brush shanks in. I thought, that'll do. So I got these huge brush shanks. Went to this aircraft and I just got it and got a big hammer and smashed this brush handle straight up the engine so that the fan couldn't turn, and left it. We turned around, did that to all the aircraft, done away, gets back to camp. Great, no problem. Next day, command officer comes in, says, I want you to go and find all the Exocet missile cases. What? Those big things, yeah. Round them up, put them all together into one place because we need to account for them. Right, so we did that. Myself, got a group of guys together, went and got all these Exocet missile cases, put them together. And then I'm up there a few days later, I'm saying, wow, this is ridiculous. This Exocet missile case opens both ends. It's really just like a big tube. And guys there going to the prisoner camp, which was the airfield, these poor Argentinian guys are having to walk through this river and the Sogan before they get there. That's not really humane. You know, we're engineers, let's do something. So we dug out this little riverbed, we got this Exocet missile case, dropped it in, kept the doors open each end. The water went through the Exocet missile case and we built it around, and it was like a little bridge across so they could go without getting wet. And that was what we did. We're engineers, it was a case of think about it. I mean, how would you like to get wet feet? So we did that. Again, we're back to the safe house and cut us out. Somebody wants to talk here. All right. So down I goes to the schoolhouse. And it was this senior guy from the Royal Navy. And he's, are you the man who put the brush up the back of the engine in the aircraft on the airfield? Yep. Good God, man, why did you do that? And this guy went at me like bang, 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 bang. This is because we were putting pilots onto the airfield who could have flew that aircraft. No, they're prisoners. No. There was a live aircraft, there was a live pilot. You put a pilot and an aircraft together. No. You listen to me. And I got right grilling. And it was like, you. I said, I'll just take it. I've had enough. I've been to war. I've had enough. If I've been to war, I'll take that out and take you. So anyway, I was marched out. Away I went. Back in the house. Next day. Cut south. What you do at the schoolhouse? Why? Don't know. Down I goes again. Walk through the door. The same guy's in front of me. You again? What's I don't know? What are you doing with these missile cases? They said there was 6 and now there's only 5. Yeah, I'll find it for you. He didn't like the idea that I'd use one as a culvert to put the water through so the prisoners could walk down in the dry instead of having to trudge through a river. He didn't really understand that, but he was just working on what he'd been told. But I got 2 real grillings there. It was unbelievable. For doing work which was essential. But you just keep your mouth shut, yeah, let it go over your head, get back on the bus, and that's life. So, the war's all finished. You've got a few casualties. They've all gone off on special ships. And then you're ready to go home. And then you get the call, you're not going home. You use engineers, specialists. You're going to look after the minefields. But why? If you're sending the Royal Marines and the paratroopers home, why can't we go home? Well, things changed anyway. We did go home, but we lived for a long time thinking we weren't going to go. Anyway, I'd like to thank you again for listening. This is Terence South signing off on Line of Duty.